to ask those that live 11 kilometres or more out of the city to put their hand up from here. Those that live 20 kilometres or more. Okay, those that live on the east side, those that live on the west. Okay, this is a really good spread, and that's what is happening in Melbourne, although it is skewed to a lot of the development happening in central Melbourne, and the eye's being taken off the ball of what's happening in the, what I call the entrances to our wonderful city. And so some people, like John might call them the outer areas, but when they go to them and see them, they see that there's a vibrancy there that is really being captured by major change in how we are operating, how we are living and how we're recreating. Now, my background is Brimbank, and Brimbank is a municipality, 123 square kilometres. It has 193,000 people. It starts at 11 kilometres from the city and goes to about 28 kilometres. So we've got the Sunshine that some of you may know, Keilor, up to Sydenham, back through Derrimut to Deer Park, St Albans, and down to Brooklyn. And it is mirroring the change that I believe that is happening on the eastern side in those entrance cities to Melbourne. And what is happening is that they are changing, and I'll talk about Brimbank because that's what I know. But with regard to the population, we don't have any discrimination. In Sunshine, we have such a diversity in our community that the Sudanese, the Laotians, the Burmese, the Vietnamese, the Polish, the Hungarians, the Maltese, the Greeks, the Anglo-Celtics all move easily together, and they're actually reached their third and fourth generations in some of those, and they're really being quite innovative. And they're hungry, and they want to be able to move. Most of them will travel, 2 out of 4 of our community travel back overseas each year to visit family. What are they bringing back when they come back? And I'm not only talking about Asia, most of our population is travelling now. And when we go overseas, we look at autobahns, 240 kilometres an hour, rail systems on 3 levels underground. You don't even have to look at where the time is because it is so reliable and it's so regular. And it's clean and it's secure. And you go to other cities, and not in Asia, it's changing from the bicycle to the car, unfortunately. But most of the others, and I was talking to a Marguerite today, we've just opened, or been part of an opening for $150 million new digital reality factory, but it's not a factory, it is what is the future is about. It is actually capturing the cloud and bringing it through to hundreds of thousands of companies around the world. And Marguerite comes from the Netherlands, and she's going to be here for 2 years, and she's in Port Melbourne at the moment. And I said to her, did you ride your bike when you were in the Netherlands? She said, oh yes, I rode to work. I rode 12 kilometres. I said, do you ride? She said, no, I can't. And she can't, not because she's in Port Melbourne and she's working in Deer Park, but there are no links, there is no security, there is no safety. She might get on to what we started off calling the main outfall sewer, and Tom Allenby and others are here when we looked in the 1990s at the old main outfall sewer, built in 1891, one of 2 in the world. We were innovative then. It was a sewer line that went all the way to Werribee, and the government was going to sell it off. So we said, look, don't do that. Here's an opportunity to connect Werribee to the city and all of the areas along the way, which we will then build bike paths back into communities at Deer Park, right up to Melbourne, along the Cororoy Creek. Well, most of the councils have done their part, but somewhere along the line the state government took their eye off the ball, and we've got gaps. And it's also federal government too. We had money in for from the Regional Development Fund to build part in Maribyrnong, which would have connected, and we don't know whether that's going to happen. But we haven't talked of bikes. I ride a bike. I don't catch a bus often. I don't need to catch a tram, and I have a car. But my choice is a bike because it keeps me sane, it keeps me healthy, I can move quite quickly from one spot to the other, and I can easily access parking. So it's very cost effective. But I've been doing it for years, and I'm probably a bit gamer than a lot of people because it doesn't worry me to ride from Hawthorn into the city. I'll move in and out of the cars. We have got to change the way we're thinking about community and the way we want to operate into the future. We have obesity, we have mental illness. What are we doing when we've got these as our growth areas in health? So we've got to change it. I look at Brimbank and I watch the bus go, the smart bus, and it has people on it and it goes regularly, and it's understood by the community that they can go to a bus stop and catch a bus. We had other buses, but the contracts were, I think, established, Steve, on kilometres travelled rather than people carried. They were always empty. That's sort of a bit of a no-brainer, but they're being renegotiated. State government has suddenly realised that people should be on buses, that it's not just good to have them travelling through. John, how am I going for time? I've got so much to say, halfway. Wonderful. Regional rail. How many of you know about the regional rail? It is when you have, again, I was speaking to a gentleman, Paul, who comes from France, and he was here at this opening, and I said, what was one of the major changes that happened in France in the last 20 years? And he said the regional rail. He said, when it comes to a railhead, oh my God, the house prices will expand enormously. They're going to grow dramatically. Regional rail is coming through Sunshine. So Ballarat, Bendigo, Geelong, Williams Landing, other places will all be able to come into Sunshine. Guess what? It's not stopping yet. But it will. It will. We don't mind if it goes in the morning peak and the afternoon peak straight to the city. But why do we want it to stop? Because in our area, just like other areas that are entrances to our great city, the way we work is changing. Did you read about AMP saying that 50% of their workforce would be freelancing? They hot desk. They don't need to go into an office into the city as often, and it will be happening less and less. So, if we look at the regional rail, those people could come, and we're building a 55 million new civic centre in Sunshine. Why are we doing that? Because we want to give a heart to the municipality of Brimbank, but we also want to show that we've moved from industrial, heavy industrial, light industrial, to the opportunity for office space. And I know other municipalities are doing that. What will that mean? It will mean that people can get off the train and not have to go through gridlock on the Westgate Bridge into the city. We can save the centre of the city. Us who live at the entrances are happy for our people to work, live and play there in the 20-minute city. But we've got one more up our sleeve. What about, and Steve, I don't know how this works, but Melbourne Airport is a gridlock. And you get there and you get about 8 kilometres out and it doesn't matter when now, and you're stuck. And therefore our productivity is going down, our personal health is going out the window, and we've got all this anger in our community and we are not doing anything about it. Now, you're not going to ride your bike to the airport, I understand that. But we have a rail line that goes through Sunshine to Albion that goes all the way to Sydney. It's a freight line. And there's space there. And we could have a rail line, because I also think there's something else that we don't know. I reckon under the airport, when they built Tullamarine, they built the capacity for a railway station. Now, some people are nodding their heads. So, we don't even have to do some of the major infrastructure works there. There's about 2 kilometres where we'd have to go back on to the rail line, which just is a touch away from Jacana, which is a touch away from Broadmeadows. We could have a northern link, a semicircular link, going from the city out through Sunshine to the airport, Broadmeadows back to the city. Wouldn't that be a great train trip? And John on his radio station says, oh, look, we've got to have a fast rail. Well, I would say I totally agree. I've been on the maglev. I sat down. I don't know why, because it said 408 kilometres an hour, and in 6 minutes, 41 seconds I was in Shanghai. Now, John, I think that would be fantastic. But it's not going to happen tomorrow or very soon. We've got to get the electrification to Melbourne. They say that's 2023. Oh, we've got other electrifications. But what if the airport said this is getting so difficult now to remain competitive here in Victoria that we will contribute some money to building a railway line? And what if we did a bond system of some sort and captured the money, and people and individuals could get a benefit from the railway line, not by only sitting on it, but actually in a dividend further down the track. Anyway, what else do I have to talk about? I've talked about, well, Graham's talked about the buses, I've talked about the bikes, I've talked about regional rail, freight. We want the West. We want the West Link. We really do in the West. We wanted to join up and go up to the airport. We're happy with that. We really, really, really would have been very happy if it didn't start in the East. We don't worry about the East in this one. We would have loved that. Freight is a huge problem. 38% I think of it is of Australia's freight comes through the port of Melbourne, and I've got some figures somewhere that I'll try and find, but with regard to the freight on the road, it is just carrying, yes, so the trucks, we're getting an increase. When the West Gate was open, or sorry, the Western Ring Road was opened, and that was opened from 95 through to about 97. It had a carrying capacity that was going to be filled, I think, was in about 15 years. Within 3 years, it had reached its capacity. Now, I haven't done a study on this, but I'm very good when I'm sitting in my car noticing how many trucks there are on McDonald Road, which is a road that leads into Sunshine, moves through Brooklyn, and it takes all the freight to Simmons Metals, etc. I'm quite often the only car while there's 3 or 4 trucks before I see another car. That is untenable for us to remain productive and remain competitive. So we've got to do something about how we move our freight, and I know stuff's being done. Finally, trips by car, people travelling out of Brimbank is running at 82%. Combine this with the 92% of people coming into Brimbank by car, and you just realise, if we could shift the way that they're moving, and most of those people, as we know, 50% of car trips are 5 kilometres, 12% are less than 1 kilometre. The average person can walk that distance, that 1 kilometre, in 10 minutes. And with regard to the bike ride, average people, from women 75 years and younger, if they've been riding a bike, can easily ride 15 kilometres. That's the distance that people will go. So haven't we got, if we could just change the way we think and operate to open out to different ways, but in that we really do need the recognition. So we need clarity, we need commitment, we need consistency, and we need confidence in the systems we're using, whether it be bus, train, bike, or even the road system. And that's what I'd ask the state government for, because I think most local governments are doing what they can do really well. As chair of the State Bicycle Committee, we set up the regional bicycle network, the principal bicycle network, and the local bicycle network. And we said, Tom, I'm trying to remember, was it 20-25 years, that in the principal bicycle network, the 45 kilometres that was needed to make sure that people who live the 15 kilometres to 20 kilometres out of town could ride into town with confidence and surety would be able to. It fell by the wayside, and it's really dissipated into bikes riding along, and you wind up with going into a roundabout, and you know, I pray, because I've got a bit of a spiritual essence there, and I survived, so I'm a much better person for it. But I would ask you all to start to think differently about the way we not only operate, but the way we can capture our imaginations to aspire into the future in this wonderful, wonderful state. So thank you very much.